Well, Mark, it is a pleasure
Yeah,
to talk to you finally. Thank you so much for talking to me today. How are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm very well. I'm very happy to talk to you also, Phil. We have some exchanges on the village, but by writing most of the time. So it's a pleasure to hear you.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you so much for agreeing to do this. So, it's all about our shared love of the handpan, really. So,
Mm.
take me back to your
Yeah.
first impressions of the handpan. How did you find out about it, and what made you focus in on this lovely instrument that we play?
As a short introduction, I'm 61 years old. It's important because I discovered the handpan through the hang
Uh-huh.
in the years 2000. So it's 20 years ago. I'm not a young fellow of the year.
Wow.
I'm pretty old now. So I've seen. I was living in Brazil at this time from 2000 to 2003, and every year I was coming back to France. And once in Paris, I saw a guy with dreadlocks
Yeah.
playing this strange instrument, and the sound went directly to my soul, not to my ears, not to my heart, but directly to the soul.
Right.
And it was a hang, of course, of Panar at this time. There was
Uh-huh.
no other handpans at this time. I had a little background in percussion, Afro-Cuban music and African music.
Right.
So percussion instruments were talking to me, but this melodical percussive instrument was something that, left me speechless at this time. It was, I think, around 2002.
And so this musical background, that percussion there, did that have an
Yeah.
influence on how you play or how you approach how you play?
I suppose yes, like all the music that I'm listening and the music I used to play. I was 20 when I played percussion during 5, 6 years. So it's a long time ago. But yeah, of course, African music, Afro-Cuban music is something very important in my life. Not only, but it's important. Yeah.
Now, one thing that I've always noticed about your videos, Mark, is you always have your headphones in and you always are listening to a metronome. Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's right. Yeah.
Why is that important? And why is it important to people who are beginning to play? What would you say?
I wouldn't say that it's an obligation for every beginner, but I think it's really very good when you begin to have a support and to very quickly understand how the different bars and the different odd meters are done. It's
Yeah.
not very easy. I must be honest, I'm not always so good. Also, I have a good sense of tempo. The tempo is good, I
Yeah.
think,
Yeah.
but sometimes to come back on the one, I can struggle sometimes. So the metronome helps me for that, and it helps me also in the groove.
Uh-huh.
Like you've heard, I like melodies, of course, also, but
Yeah.
I like percussion also on the handpan, and of course the groove, and it helps me. It supports my groove, I think, better than when I play without.
Wow. Yeah.
And I want to learn. I want to learn to be precise
Yeah.
on the musical way.
Moving over to somebody who's beginning, you've obviously got a lot of experience, so you're a very good
Hmm?
person to ask this question. But what advice would you give to someone who is considering buying their first handpan? What would you say to somebody who doesn't know what scale to get?
To ask as many questions as possible in our village, of course, for example, but also online, to watch as much videos as possible online about handpan, to see different handpans, different players, different scales, different sounds, to take as much information as possible, to think about it. After the second step, of course, it's a very expensive instrument
Yeah.
nowadays. So it's an investment. If somebody has not the money at all, I'm. It's hard for me to say don't buy a Chinese thing for 300 or 400 bucks or pounds or euros. I don't know exactly if I would recommend to buy something or not. I have no answer for this question. Maybe it can be helpful, maybe not. Maybe it can disgust you of the handpan at all. But if you have no money, try to enter in contact with people who have handpans to lay to give for a moment in your
Yeah.
region.
Just
Try to
to
play,
borrow,
try to
yeah.
put hands, yeah,
Yeah.
to borrow one. Uh,
Uh-huh.
if you don't have the money, and start to of course, work on your budget. If
Yeah.
you have a budget, um, I would say the best you can do if you have the money is maybe to buy a D card, so
Uh-huh.
that you can follow on the all the tutorials, and 80% of the tutorials online on the different platforms or tutorials are on D card. So it's very helpful at the beginning to start with this scale.
Uh-huh.
And it's an interesting scale because you have a lot of chords compared to some other scales. And on the other hand, if you have the budget, buy also a second-hand pan which touched your heart on the
Yeah.
different videos that you have listened online. That's if you have the budget. Otherwise, if you can buy just one, or the Descartes, or the one that touched you. I didn't buy a Descartes at the beginning, which I consider today an error,
Right.
because I think I lost some times on Master the Handpan to change. The first scale I had was an E integral,
Uh-huh.
9 notes,
Yeah.
and it wasn't easy as a beginner to understand to change the notes that I was seeing David playing, for example,
Yeah.
on my scale. It was not so easy. So I regret not having a D chord to begin as a first instrument. I bought one later. So I sold this one very quickly. And after I bought another one. I was very happy with it. And then after I heard another one which was pleasing me. So I began to sell the first one, bought another one. And that's like that I have today three instruments which are totally different,
Yeah.
very different scales. You know them, all the three of them. You heard them on the platform,
Uh-huh.
which are very good instruments made by French players. They are not of the level of Ayasa or Yishama,
Yeah.
but close.
So how would you
Mm.
describe the sound and the feel of a handpan to somebody who has never experienced it before? How have you described it before in the past?
It's maybe not the only instrument, but it's one of the rare instruments which is a mixture of percussion and melody. So I call it melodically percussive.
Yeah.
And the sound of this instrument, generally, what I experienced, touches really the people very quickly and in a very deep way. For some, they are petrified listening at
Really?
it.
Wow.
Yeah, I've seen people petrified because it's a
Wow.
sound that's let them, yeah, petrified. I've
Right.
seen people crying. I've seen people having goosebumps. I've seen people laughing. I've seen
Gosh.
people very curious about the instrument. For me, it was the soul directly. But I think for most of the people, it touches really the guts,
Yeah.
the belly,
Yeah.
inside the belly,
Yeah.
or the heart.
And
It seems really very.
how does it affect you personally still after all these years, Mark? Does it affect you personally?
Yeah, yeah. And now that I understand more how to play it and how it is played, when I see some players playing some scales or doing some tricks or some melodies, or I won't say names for the moment, but it touches me really deeply when I see what they can do with this instrument that I know a little bit better
Yeah.
now since a few years. I'm still deeply touched by this instrument. Yes.
That's
And it's a
lovely.
beautiful instrument. I think it's a beautiful sculpture also.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a sculpture for sure.
Yeah, it's a sculpture.
So you've been playing a while now. What advanced techniques do you think that you've developed over this time that a new player might be too quick to overlook? What do you think new people do too quickly or they forget about when they first start that you've learned in your experience in playing?
What is very important in the handpan that maybe some handpan players who are not just newbie but playing since 1 year, 1 year and a half, 2 years are not working enough is the sound.
Right?
The way you touch the instrument, you hit the instrument. For example, just to make resonate a note, you have not just one way with your finger. You have minimum 3 or 4 different ways to make a note resonate. So the
Yeah.
touch of the instrument, the different sound that you can have, the dynamics, that's something really very important and very powerful.
Cabasau has a very good lesson about that, doesn't he? About
Yes,
dynamics.
yes, from 0 to 10.
Yeah,
Malte
absolutely.
also, Malte Martin also.
Yeah, and Alexander Merrick's as well speaks
Yeah,
about
Merckx
it.
also. Yeah, yeah.
So we're talking about three teachers here that are all on the Master the Handpan website. Let's
Yeah.
talk about the Master the Handpan village and the site itself. Do you think it's influenced your recent playing experience and your learning? How has it affected
Yes.
you differently?
I'm on the platform since 4 years.
Right.
But I play seriously the handpan since two. Because I'm not working anymore since 2 years, so I have some time. Before I was working and a lot, really too much. I had
Okay.
a passionate job, but I was working too much, so I was not playing very much. But I was also already on Masters the Handpan, and I began the courses with David, the beginner and the intermediate, and then I bought the first master classes on Masters the Handpan.
Huh?
The village didn't exist at this moment. It's 1 year old, but it was on Facebook, of course, that we had a group, and
Yeah.
I was interacting as much as possible, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot with David, of course, the different video, the masters classes, exchanges also on the Facebook group,
Yeah.
and I began to discover this community, this handpan community, also in other groups, Facebook groups. And I was looking and hearing a lot of videos, so I discovered this tribe, which is my tribe now, the
Yeah.
handpan community, and so it still helps me a lot. I still discover all the time new things on all the master classes that I've already done.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes I go back and I see different things because my level is different 1 year after. So I can play things that I was not able to play 1 year ago. And of course, new master classes that are coming out every month and a half, 2 months,
Yeah.
every time, big excitement for me.
What's your current favorite course that you do?
Cabeçao, you know that,
Yeah.
but I say it loud. Cabeçao is the player that I prefer. I don't say that he's the best, of course. No, of course not.
I would say he
Everyone
is.
has,
I would say he
everyone
is.
has his,
Yeah.
yeah, everyone has his best player.
Yeah.
Nadishan is very interesting, also in the
Uh-huh.
technical way, harmonic way, odd measures. But Cabeçao is a player I prefer. Yeah, so Cabeçao. But I learned a lot also with other master classes like Alexander Merckx
Uh-huh.
masterclass. One of the ultimate that came out with Jeremy Natag.
Yeah.
Mumiz is very interesting. Adam Malouf, of course, for Hijaz lover. He's half American, half from Lebanon, half from
Yeah.
Middle East. So you can feel it in his playing. A lot. In every course, I found something to nourish me anyway.
That's great. And what about the village? What about the this online community that we're building all together in the last year? Like you said, how has that been?
I like it very much. As an old guy in Masters of Handpan now, I think that some people out there since 6 years. I'm here since 4, but it's much better than the Facebook group. The village, we are alone, just in between us, no algorithm, nothing else, no metaverse,
Yeah.
nobody interacting with us except just the handpan players and the handpan teachers and the handpan students. I find it great. I'm much more on it and now. I'm almost on it every day, a little bit,
Yeah.
than before on the Facebook group. I find it very nice. I feel the tribe very strongly,
Yeah.
stronger than before.
Okay. I mean, you've known about the hung and then the handpan for a long time, but you've
Mm-hmm.
only been playing it seriously for the last 2 years. But how has your relationship with the handpan evolved as you've grown as a player? Has it shaped any maybe philosophies or approaches to your life as deep as that, or how has your relationship with your instruments changed?
I think, a very deep relation. I'm in
Oh yeah.
contact with this instrument every day.
Uh-huh.
It's part of my life now, as I'm not working anymore. So for all the people who are not working, it can be sometimes very scary and I'm not married and I have no kids.
Uh-huh.
I don't enter in why. Anyway, it's like this today. But I'm very happy with my life. In the morning, I do some sports. I'm close to the sea. I'm 200 meters from the sea, so I can go for a little ride on rowing.
Uh-huh.
And then I have lunch, and then I play handpan, and then I read a little bit, and I replay some handpan. My daily routine is almost that, very simple, but I'm very
Nice.
happy with that. And I try to have some moments in the nature also. Not always with my handpan, not very often with the handpan, most of the time just for breathing and entering in contact with the nature and the trees. But
Okay.
it's part of my life. It's an important pillar of my life today.
Hey, I'll tell you where I've played recently that was really lovely. That's in a church. Oh,
Yeah,
the
that could
sound in a
be. Yeah,
church is amazing.
yeah.
I asked permission. Obviously, I didn't just turn up with my handpan.
Mhm.
I asked the priest who was in the
Yeah,
church.
the
I sent
priest.
her an email and said,
Mhm.
I'm a local handpan player. You might not
Mhm.
have heard the instrument. And I sent her a link to a YouTube video. And I said, could I play this instrument in your church? And she said, yes, you can. I turned up. I had the
Mhm.
whole church to myself for an hour. Nobody else there at
Mhm.
all. It was actually
Yeah, that's good.
spectacular.
I know that many people are enjoying playing outside in the
Yeah.
nature. A lot of videos are very nice about that. Sometimes too much. Sometimes you eat too much. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I like that. But yeah, no, for the moment, I'm very happy to play at home to make my little progress and
Yeah.
sometimes to play with some friends here around and sometimes a little bit outside. But I know that it will be more and more.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you, Mark.
Mhm.
And appreciate all your input and your comments and encouragement to other people on the village. And long may our online relationship continue, my friend.
Yeah, it's much pleasure. We talk to each other on the village.
Absolutely. You take care for now, okay?
Yeah, take care. Have a nice evening.